stopping me particularly from going in and using it.
Yes.
You guys are denying me service because of my assistive devices.
That is correct.
Part 10 of a multi-part series featuring Guilford County, North Carolina. Following the 2 pre-trial hearings in Guilford County Superior Court in 2021, a trial date was set for January 31st, 2022. As you can hear in the last video, the judge said Mike could remain on telephonic standby and await a call to inform him if his case would be called that week for trial. Mike resubmitted his ADA requests for equal access and, after careful consideration, insisted on the visual interpreter being provided for trial and all evidentiary hearings. Mike didn't receive a response for weeks, so he emailed for an update. The trial court coordinator emailed back, letting Mike know a few days before trial that the courthouse in High Point had been flooded and that trials were being delayed. They eventually reset the date for March 2nd, 2022, and agreed to the evidentiary hearing to hear pretrial motions via WebEx. The NCAOC agreed to all the previous modifications granted, and still didn't grant the visual interpreter. Mike informed them that was unacceptable and notified them that the ADA prevents an entity to force a person with disabilities to accept the accommodations offered. 42 U.S.C. 12201D, Accommodations and Services, states, "Nothing in this chapter shall be construed to require an individual with a disability to accept an accommodation, aid, service, opportunity, or benefit which such individual chooses not to accept." Mike had previously, back in 2021, offered the suggestion that the NCAOC pay for the IRA visual interpretation services. The U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs, Blind Rehab Centers, recommends IRA to their patients. The VA used to pay for the service and is trying to get approved to pay for it again. On March 1st, 2022, the day before the hearing, the NCAOC finally acquiesced and agreed to pay for the IRA visual interpretation services. This made history. For the first time in the history of the courts in North Carolina, the NCAOC made the proper modification of providing visual interpretation services to a visually impaired person. For the first time in over 2 years, since Mike first tried to access the North Carolina courts in December of 2019, Mike was provided with full accommodations modifications for court. This hearing lasted nearly 9 hours and was split up into 2 days, so we will be splitting it up into 3 parts. This is the first part of the 3-part pre-trial evidentiary hearing. This part occurred March 2nd, 2022. Quick tip: skip to the 10-minute mark to avoid wading through some of the sound difficulties.
Good morning. I'm just wondering if everyone can hear me.
Email address?
No.
I can hear you. Can you hear me? I can hear you.
Mr. Simmons, I don't know that we ever got it worked out because I was not able to hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Mr. Nelson, do you mind unmuting and speaking to see if we're able to hear you?
Yeah. Yeah. Can you hear me? Sure.
I can hear you. I can hear Mr. Nelson. Can you hear me, Michael?
I can hear you, Mr. Simmons.
I can hear Michael.
All right, let me work on this and see what I can do because I'm unable to hear either of you.
Okay.
We can hear each other.
Can mute me.
Nice.
I haven't tried to yet. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, I can hear.
A little bit.
Yeah. I can hear whoever just spoke.
Have we got everybody involved?
Yes, Your Honor, I believe we do.
Whenever y'all ready.
I'm gonna mute my microphone.
Mr. Nelson, this is James.R.Capps with the DA's office. Can you hear me?
Another attorney, but we have
I can.
of the same person.
I need a little more volume from Mr. Capps.
How about that? Is that better? Can you hear me a little clearer, Mr. Nelson?
Yes, that's much better. And I have the interpreter service through IRA on the phone I'm using. So if everybody could, whenever they speak, just pause, just like you would for a language interpreter or a sign language interpreter. Just pause a minute, let the interpreter interpret any visual cues for me.
Your Honor, before we begin, just a couple of housekeeping matters for this case. I don't believe that we have an official waiver of counsel or court-appointed counsel from Mr. Nelson. I have that list of questions for the court if I can approach with that.
Mr. Nelson, are you able to hear and understand me?
Yes, who's speaking?
This is Mark.E.Klass.
Okay.
Are you now under the influence of any alcoholic beverage, drugs, narcotics, or other pills?
No.
How old are you? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
How old are you?
Oh, I'm 38.
Have you completed high school, college?
Yes.
Do you know how to read and write?
I was taught how to read and write. I can't really do it visually anymore. I use screen readers and technology to help me.
Do you suffer from any mental handicap or physical handicap?
Yes.
And that is?
I'm sorry?
And what is that?
Are you asking about my disabilities?
Yes, what are your physical or mental handicaps?
Well, I can answer like what functions I can or can't do, but I'm not going to disclose like what specific disabilities I have.
Well, I guess then what can and can't you do?
Okay. Well, I have an ability to see, and I have a long-term memory loss, so I need different tools to be able to refresh my memory. I have I'm affected by interruptions or multiple people talking at once. It distracts or confuses or makes me lose my train of thought. Same thing with threatening or coercive situations. I can lose my train of thought. I'm severely impacted by exposure to lights, certain smells, and even certain foods render me with intense head pain, which makes me unable to move or speak. And then there's some mobility issues, like with joints.
Do you understand you have a right to be represented by a lawyer?
Yes.
You understand that you may request that a lawyer be appointed for you if you're unable to hire one one will be appointed to you if you cannot afford to pay for one.
Yes.
You understand, if you decide to represent yourself, you must follow the same rules of evidence and procedure that a lawyer appearing in this court must follow.
Yes.
You understand that if you decide to represent yourself, the court will not give you legal advice concerning defenses, jury instructions, or other legal issues that may arise in the trial.
Yes.
Do you understand that I must act as the impartial judge in this case, that I will not be able to offer you legal advice, and I must treat you as I would any other lawyer?
Yes.
You understand that you've been charged with resisting a public officer in second-degree trespass? You understand that?
Yes.
All these things in mind, do you now wish to ask me any questions about what I've said to you?
No.
Do you now waive your right to the assistance of a lawyer and voluntarily and intelligently decide to represent yourself in this case?
No. I'm not waiving any rights. I'm going to retain all my rights.
I understand you're not waiving your right, but you're waiving your right to an attorney. You want to represent yourself.
I am here pro se, but I am not waiving rights of any kind.
Well, we cannot proceed unless you have an attorney or you wish to waive your rights, or you'll let me appoint you an attorney.
I checked the state statute on the waiver of rights. There is no statutory requirement requiring a defendant to waive any rights to counsel to proceed pro se. And so that's what I intend to do. I intend to retain all my rights and continue pro se.
Do you plan on representing yourself?
Yes.
I'll note that for the record. May proceed.
Your Honor, additionally, Mr. Nelson, this is Mr. Capps with the DA's office. Your Honor, if we could have a finding on the record or an inquiry that Mr. Nelson is forfeiting or waiving any right to appear personally for this hearing.
I didn't hear what you said there at the end.
I just asked the court to make a finding that you are waiving or forfeiting your right to appear for this hearing in person.
No, I'm not waiving that right to appear in person. I physically can't because of disability. It's an accommodation made because of disability. I'm not waiving any rights. It's upholding my rights under the Americans with Disabilities Act and the 14th Amendment.
You requested this to be heard over WebEx, is that correct?
Yes, that as an accommodation or a modification pursuant to the Americans with Disabilities Act, which is also protected by the 14th Amendment for due process.
And by doing that, you waive your right to be here in person.
No, sir. Again, I'm not waiving rights. I'm insisting that all my rights are intact. A modification of the procedures or policies is not a waiver of rights. It's we're pursuing with court with my rights intact.
But you requested this to be heard over WebEx instead of you being physically present. Is that correct?
Yes, and that's due to disability, and this is made as a modification because of disability.
At your request?
Yes.
I'll make that for the record.
And Your Honor, is it okay if I remain seated so he can hear through the microphone? Mr. Nelson, as far as your pretrial motions, do we have any others to address other than your motion to suppress?
Mr. Nelson is indicating that I need to have a session with him for some reason. I'll need to talk to him. Okay, when he puts the stop sign up, he's getting visual information from the visual interpreter. I'm Mr. Nelson's auxiliary aide, and I'm here in that capacity.
Your name is?
William Simmons.
I'll note that for the record.
I'm a South Carolina attorney and a member of the federal bar for the Fourth Circuit and patent attorney.
Okay. What did you say, Mr. Capps? Can anybody hear me?
I can hear you. I don't think Mr. Capps did. He said the only motions being addressed is the motions to suppress, but you have several other motions. Sequester, recovery,
Receive.
Brady. Can't hear you now.
I think he's muted.
Yeah, I'm still haven't heard from Mr. Capps. I think he addressed me, but I didn't hear what he was saying. I was getting visual information from the interpreter.
To suppress.
I got, I think, half of the last word.
Can you hear me, Mr. Nelson?
All right, now I can hear you. Yeah.
So, which of your other pretrial motions are still pending?
Yes. So I think we have 2 motions to suppress. I think I informed you guys I was withdrawing the first one because it was just kind of generic, and I was going to support it with a brief. I ended up filing a more complete motion to suppress, and that's the one that prepared to argue today. I think we can save that one for last. We have a Brady motion, a discovery motion regarding jury selection, and a motion to sequester, and then a motion to memorialize discovery.
And Your Honor, I've got hard copies of those motions. I'll go ahead and allow Mr. Nelson to be heard on those.
Mr. Nelson, if you tell me which one you're discussing, and you may proceed.
I think we start with the Brady motion. The motion is just simply asking for any Brady information, any information that's exculpatory that's in the hands of the state, whether it be the prosecutor or the agents of the state, the police department, or the custodial law enforcement that has video, or even email communication from or with the arresting officer and the security staff that worked at the Guilford County Security, the health department, the date in question of February 4th, 2020. Now this motion is pursuant primarily to the U.S. Constitution, the 5th and 14th Amendments, the Due Process Clause. I understand that North Carolina has a practice of not wanting to provide discovery or Brady to cases that originated in district court. And I'm arguing that my rights are just as important to me as somebody's rights that are charged with a felony. And there's no distinction in the Constitution at the state level or at the federal level. And therefore, I'm requesting that the motion for Brady be granted, as I believe there is exculpatory evidence, not just the videos that I haven't been given access to, but as District Court, Mr. Capps selectively played only sections of the videos that are available. I think there's a lot of exculpatory evidence that needs to be released.
Briefly, Your Honor. Again, I'll just, for the purpose of the record, remind the court that this case did initiate in district court by statute, not practice. The defendant is not entitled to any discovery from the district attorney's office. I'm not aware of any potentially exculpatory evidence or any evidence that would qualify as Brady material. Put on the record that I do recognize the state's obligation under Brady. I would turn that over if I'm aware of it, but I'm not. And that's the state's response to that motion. I don't need to go any further on that.
Yep, may I respond to that?
Right.
The state has body camera footage of the officer, the arresting officer, that I've never been given access to. The state, I believe, has access to security camera footage of the magistrate's office and of the jail and the surrounding area. Whether or not he has direct possession of it, I don't know. I'm pretty sure he's aware of the situation in this case where the security guards and the arresting officer brutally attacked me and rendered me unconscious, and then dumped my unconscious body somewhere outside the jail. And that level of malice and wanton disregard for the law is very much exculpatory, because if somebody's willing to do that, they're definitely willing to charge me with crimes that I did not commit. So it's very much pertinent to the case. It's very much exculpatory and would be helpful for me in defense and trial.
Anything else?
Just briefly, Your Honor. And Mr. Nelson, this is Mr. Capps again. I think this is an appropriate time to bring it to the court's attention. My understanding is that Mr. Nelson made a request for some body cam videos from Officer Boyce through a Freedom of Information or a public records request through the county attorney's office. It's my understanding the county attorney attempted to try to offer some sort of accommodation where he could view those videos in the county attorney's office with the assistance of a visual aid provided by the county attorney. I'm not aware that Mr. Nelson availed himself to that opportunity. It's my understanding that he requested the county attorney view those videos over Zoom with Mr. Nelson. My understanding of the county attorney's position is that he was not willing to view the videos over Zoom because he was not sure what would happen to the videos if they would be broadcast or publicized on his YouTube page or something to that effect. So that's why he didn't do it. But his compromise was to have Mr. Nelson meet him in the county attorney's office, and he would go over any videos that he had in his possession with him and a visual aid provided by the county. Additionally, I'm not aware that Mr. Nelson has requested any videos that were entered as evidence in the district court trial. Those are available to him through the clerk of court. He excused himself during the district court trial. So he didn't watch him in his district court trial, but his attorney did. We can cross that bridge when we get to it, but that's my response on the video.
May I respond to that?
You may.
Yeah, that information that Mr. Capps just relayed about my communication with James Secor from Guilford County Sheriff's Office or the Guilford County Attorney's Office is not complete or accurate. I have actually made the ADA request similar to what we have in place today to be able to review video remotely via some kind of video conferencing, and for the county to provide a visual interpreter. That ADA request has not been responded to. Contrary to what Mr. Capps has said, the county attorney said he didn't know if they could or would have to provide a visual interpreter. And in fact, this is like a precedent moment that we actually have a visual interpreter provided by any state entity in North Carolina. So I'm very grateful that this accommodation is in place, but this didn't happen until yesterday. And I haven't received a response from Mr. Secor regarding what level of accommodation will be made. I did CC the county's disability coordinator to see if they can facilitate access. I reside like 15 hours away. I can't drive. I have no real good means of getting there to review video, and it would definitely be an extraordinary burden on my family and cost to me to do so. As far as the videos in district court, no visual interpreter was provided in district court, so I didn't have access to that video as well.
What I'll do is order that the state turn over anything in their possession as to the footage that you're dealing with the county attorney or whoever it is. You'll have to proceed with them to try to get a visual interpreter to look at that, or come in person and do it.
Okay.
You may proceed to your next motion.
Okay, thank you. I think the follow-up motion that goes with the Brady or discovery is a motion to memorialize whatever is offered. So that's just simply whatever you just ordered, Judge, that the prosecutor released to me, that I will basically make a receipt of what video he does send, and then we both can sign that and then submit that in an agreement, so there's no dispute that I did in fact receive whatever the prosecutor ends up handing over to me.
Anything?
I don't need to be heard.
I'll grant that.
Okay, thank you, Judge. The next motion I think I have is a discovery motion, and it's specifically for a jury selection process that the prosecution has, the DA's office has, and that's based on a history of discrimination towards people of different color or ethnicity or different minority groups. And I think I have the specific case law cited in the written motion, and since this case is primarily dealing with disability and discrimination, I want to be able to review whatever the DA's policies or handbook or procedures that they have for jury selection to find out if there is any implicit bias in those policies.
Can you respond?
Briefly, Your Honor, I don't really need to be heard on that. I'm not aware of any training material. I've never been trained on how to pick a jury in that way. I'm not aware of any training material that's in possession of our office, so I don't need to be heard any further.
If there's any training materials available, I'll order that be turned over.
Understood.
Okay, thank you, Judge. I think I have a motion to sequester the witnesses. It's just pretty standard witnesses for both sides. I'm just asking that they be sequestered. If we have an evidentiary hearing today for the suppression for this hearing, and then also for the trial, should it go to trial.
I don't need to be heard on that, Your Honor.
I'll grant your motion.
Okay, thank you, Judge. I think that brings us to the motion to suppress.
May I proceed?
And can I have 1 minute, Your Honor?
May.
And Your Honor, may it please the court. Mr. Nelson, this is Mr. Capps again. And Your Honor, based on the order to turn over the evidence that I have, that is 2 videos that are pertinent to the case, Mr. Nelson's suppression motion is to suppress the arrest. Those videos would be introduced in the motion. He has not viewed those videos yet, so I'm just asking at this point, what's going to happen next, since he needs to view those videos. He's made a request to view those videos. That's been ordered by the court. So,
Ms. Nielsen, I understand you have not seen these videos that you're wishing to suppress. I guess we can play them, well, so your visual interpreter can tell you what's on there at this time before we proceed, if that's satisfactory to you.
I think that sounds fine, Judge. This is the first time I've had this accommodation or modification of having a visual interpreter, so this is my first availability to actually know what is in the video. So I would appreciate that.
You'll play the videos.
perfect. And Judge, I think that I'm able to share the content that's on my screen. I'll pull the video up and attempt to try to see if we can do that.
Yeah, I'm going to try to use this stop sign to let you know if I need a pause, so she can give me the visual information bit by bit.
Just in case you don't know, WebEx has the feature to allow you to share a video that's being played on your system. You can see and hear it. Please share video, in case you didn't know that feature.
I don't know how to do that.
At the bottom of my screen, I see a icon or a button that says share. You can click share and then it will show your computer screen that you can go to the video that you want to, or the audio file or whatever. Click on it. There you go.
Can you see that, Mr. Simmons?
I can see that. Yes, I can. I don't hear anything yet, but I can see it.
All right. So this
Does
is
it
the
help?
security camera footage from the health department lobby. This is just a video. There's no audio with this. It's about 16 minutes long.
Are ready to proceed?
Yes.
you can run the video.
Okay.
Mr. Capps, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Mr. Nelson.
Did you edit that video, or is that the video that you got from the Guilford County Security?
That's a copy of the video that was obtained from Guilford County Security. To my knowledge, that video has not been edited by anybody.
Okay. How did I magically appear in that seat in the lobby?
I'm not sure I understand that question, Mr. Nelson.
Yeah, the video starts with me already seated in the lobby. So the security camera footage would have me entering the lobby and me conducting business prior to sitting down in the seat. And again, Judge, just so you know, in district court, if this is the same video Mr. Capps played, he would have access to the full security camera footage from Guilford County Security, but selectively chose to play a section that supports the prosecution's theory, and that is he claimed I had no business at the health department. Whereas the security camera footage, the full security camera footage would show that in fact I did have business. I went to the counter. After going to the counter, I was accosted by this first security guard that is represented in that video. He eventually follows me to the chair and he grabs my assistive device from my hand. And that is not depicted in this current video that the prosecution just played and that he relied on in district court in order to get a conviction. So the prosecution absolutely has knowledge of this. He knows it because it's been documented online on the different news media outlets online. He knows because the Guilford County Security has the full security footage. We have not received any of that footage that hasn't been edited. This video that he played has been cut multiple times. The speed of the video was slowed down periodically to make up for that time gap. And we can prove that by playing real-time video of the body camera alongside the security camera footage, and it will show you gaps in the security footage and how it's highly edited.
Anything for the state?
No, sir. That's the footage that was obtained by our office through Guilford County Security.
I'll note that for the record.
Yeah, so Judge, that footage is not the full accurate representation of what happened, and it has been highly edited. We can demonstrate that by playing side-by-side video. It doesn't make sense that the video starts with me already in a chair. They have security camera footage of me entering the building, of me getting services, and again, the prosecution is acting in bad faith, and I would say is acting with prosecutorial misconduct because he knows these things, and it shows his implicit bias in this case.
Anything?
No, sir. And Your Honor, Mr. Nelson, the second video that I have is body camera footage that was captured on Officer Boyce's body-worn camera, February 4th, 2020. Yes, sir.
You can play it. Play on the computer.
Good.
Go ahead.
Yeah, is there audio for this video? I'm not getting audio on this side.
Oh, they all find.
Does Monty get audio?
I can hear it this week.
What was that? I didn't hear you.
I was saying I could hear it, but it was weak.
I have no audio on this side.
I have no audio on this side.
All right, I've played about 20 seconds of that video. Can you guys hear it?
I
No.
cannot hear.
Yeah,
I have
still
my
no audio.
I have my volume all the way up and I cannot hear it.
Did anybody hear any of that?
No.
Do you think you put the speaker? I don't know if that would help. Inside your computer, I don't know.
Are you still not hearing that audio?
There's an audio blip, but that was it. There's no discernible audio.
I don't think anybody was talking during that clip. Let it run a little further and see if we can hear somebody talk.
Yes.
All right, there's audio in this portion. Can you guys hear anything?
No, it's coming in very distorted, so it's not discernible. I don't know if there's feedback loop from the different microphones picking up the audio and it all clashing. I think you should be able to share the audio just like you share the video through the streaming. There's information in the chat on how to make the audio work in tandem with the video. Somebody missed the chat log.
If you can give me a link to the video file, I can play it over my system.
Not to the public.
I'm not going to say.
Well, I don't want to say. Can you tell me the name of the gentleman that is over here on my right? He grabbed my property. Is that correct?
This is our security, this is our security, they're all security.
Can you tell me the name, please?
I'm not going to, but you feel free to ask them.
Oh, I did. I asked him to identify himself after violating my property.
Again, I've asked you to stop recording.
I paused that. Is that coming up everybody's sound to me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, loud and clear.
I'll go ahead and start that then.
A little different because
it's HIPAA.
that's HIPAA.
And that's where we talking about some federal shit, and then
Yep. So
He's coming out now.
Oh, is it?
Mm-hmm.
They're on the courthouse. It's right here being built right over here.
Yeah.
He's arresting him. He arresting the security inside.
I know we're dealing with him. We're waiting on a call back to see what we're gonna do.
People.
Yes, these people. Wait with this fucking clown.
Posted on the doors, my name is Leslie. It's posted on the doors. There's no video. Your clients are here for medical reasons, and you're violating their law, their rights.
Right.
They're HIPAA violations.
You know that HIPAA applies to the medical personnel, not to the public.
Okay. I'm not gonna pay unless you let me.
Well, I don't want to. Can you tell me the name of the gentleman that is over here on my right? He grabbed my property.
Sir, this is our security, this is our security, they're all security.
Can you tell me the name?
I'm not going to, but you feel free to ask them.
Oh, I did. I asked him to refuse to identify himself after violating my my property.
Okay.
Again, I've asked you to stop
Excuse me.
recording.
Okay, I need you to stop recording and you need
Who are
to
you?
turn that off.
Who are you?
Captain Darby.
Captain Darby?
You've been asked to turn the recording device off.
Captain Darby, but what organization?
Guilford County Security, you've seen this before.
I haven't seen.
Okay, so I need you to turn the device off and stop recording, or you're gonna have to leave.
This gentleman assaulted me. He grabbed my property without my permission.
Okay.
So you
Okay, we'll take care of that later, but what I need you to do.
Well,
I need you to turn
how do I
your-
file a complaint or criminal report?
You can file it through Guilford County.
Okay. Are you his supervisor?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Can you identify him for me? Because I need a name to go with the complaint or the
You
criminal
can ask
complaint.
officer, he'll identify himself.
Can you tell me your name, please? So somebody read me the gentleman's name?
You need to turn your recording device off, please.
Okay.
I've
I use these as
I've asked-
assistive devices.
I understand your assistive devices, but
Reasonable
you are
application.
recording. If you don't turn your devices off, your recording device, not your assistive device.
These are assistive devices.
Okay, if you don't turn your recording
Do you have
device off,
is there an AD
you're-
coordinator, Miss Leslie?
you need
We
to
have an
leave.
ADA coordinator, not in this building, but you have been told to turn it off.
Ask him to leave.
Okay,
This-
you
this is-
need to leave.
This is a
If you are
violation
not
of
going to
rights.
stop recording, you need to leave the building.
Okay.
Okay, I've asked you plenty.
Well, there was a crime committed, and I need to
Okay.
identify the person that violated
If you,
that.
if you don't.
All right, sir,
if you
you've been
don't
asked to
leave
leave.
The building,
You're gonna be arrested
You're
for
gonna be
secondary
arrested.
trespassing right now.
okay?
So, are you
For
gonna
for
leave?
second degree
Yes, because now they're
trespass?
asking you to leave, and you're not leaving the county building.
So that, hold on, second degree trespass. is
Okay.
If you're on the
Are
property.
you gonna leave?
I'm trying to clarify what's going on. So second degree trespass is if you're on the property of another and you're without permission, or you are asked to leave, you're told to leave and you refuse. Is that right? Is my understanding of that right?
Whatever it is you want it to be.
Well,
But
I just want to understand what you're threatening. Like, if
I'm
you're
not threatening you.
Nobody.
Are you gonna leave, sir?
Well, I'm trying to clarify.
Are you gonna leave? Yes or no?
You've been
Absolutely.
asked to
Yes, I
leave.
will absolutely leave.
Let's go.
I'm just trying to clarify.
Because now I'm about to
what's
put
going
cuffs on you if you don't.
Wait a minute. So you are going to use violence against me? I'm trying to
That's
clarify.
not violence.
It's like taking away my freedom is absolutely violence.
Sir, are you gonna leave right now or not?
Yes, I'm trying to clarify.
Let's go.
What do you mean by
Let's-
secondary
let's go.
trespass?
Let's
Because
go.
You have 5 seconds. I'm gonna tell you to turn around, put your hands behind your back,
a
and then you're gonna go to
a
jail.
property of another, that means it.
All right,
you
go
know,
ahead, turn
this-
around
this- What are you doing? Whoa, 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 whoa.
Go
Stop,
ahead.
stop. What are you doing?
Just
Who are
turn
you?
around.
Stop, stop. Who are you?
You are
Stop.
being
Who
arrested.
are you? Stop. Who are you?
Sir.
Stop. Who are you? I don't know who you are. Stop. This is assault and battery. Stop.
This is not assault and battery.
Help. Somebody help me. Stop. Stop.
You've been asking me to get him to leave.
Ow, you're hurting me. Stop. Why are you doing this? Ah!
Down on the ground.
What are you doing?
Down on the ground. Stop resisting. Stop resisting.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
Roll over now.
Who are you?
Roll over.
Who are you? Who are you? I don't know who you are.
Roll over.
You're like breaking my arm.
Turn around, sir.
Who are you?
Roll over.
Who are you?
This is Officer Boyce, company police officer, North State. Now roll over.
Why couldn't you say that? Goodness. Why are you hurting me, man? Why are you hurting me? Boyce, North State, is that what you said? You say Boyce?
Roll over onto your side.
You say Boyce?
Roll
North
over to
State?
your side. Roll over to your side.
Did you say Boyce with North State?
Roll over to your side.
You hurt me, man.
Sir.
I got all kinds of injuries, dude.
Now you need to step up.
Please stop.
Let's go.
Please stop.
Let's go, sir.
Please stop.
Sir, let's go.
Please stop.
You're already about 2 charges in. Let's go.
Please stop.
Sir, you can get up on your own, or I can carry you over. Let's go.
I'm pretty sure you hurt me. You injured me. So please stop.
Roll over.
Is there a disability coordinator, please? Can somebody get a disability coordinator?
Okay. Now we're playing this game.
Can somebody get a
Is
disability
there a wheelchair in there? They got a wheelchair?
Yeah.
Let me get a wheelchair.
Can you get a disability coordinator, please? Somebody help. This man is attacking me. Somebody help me. Do you have a disability coordinator? Somebody? Anybody? Please help.
All right, sir. I want to roll you over to your side.
Assaulted and battered. Please help me. Please help. Somebody help. Help me. Somebody help me.
Push it on me.
Ah!
Sir.
Ow! Ow! Please stop.
Yeah.
Please help. Ow!
Sir.
Please somebody get a disability. Disability
You're on.
coordinator.
And get in the chair.
Somebody help me. Please stop. I've got multiple injuries. Please stop. Please help. Somebody help me. Disability coordinator, please.
Okay.
So I gave him the chair.
Grab him.
Somebody help.
Grab his arms. I'll get his legs.
Help me.
Set him up into the chair.
All right.
Somebody help.
1, 2, 3.
Help.
Sit in the chair, Michael.
Help. I can't breathe. On my neck. Help me. Ow. Ow.
Okay, sir.
Somebody help.
You need to
Somebody
sit
help.
into the chair.
Help me.
Okay, take this bag.
Help me, please.
Take the bag off.
Somebody help.
Take the bag off.
Coordinator,
Let me go get the big wheelchair.
please. Somebody help me.
All right, let's get this wheelchair.
Somebody help. Ow. 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 Stop. Please stop.
All right, sir.
Stop. Please stop. Please stop. Please stop hurting me. Please stop. Please. Somebody get me a disability coordinator. Help. I'm being attacked. Please help. Ow. Ow. Help me. Somebody please help me. Somebody help.
Roll over, sir.
Help.
Ow! 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 Stop! Please stop! Please stop! Sit up, sir. Please, ow! 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 Please, ow! You're hurting me. You're hurting me. Why are you doing this? Please help me! Somebody help! Ow! Help! Please help! Please help! Ow! Ow! Anybody hear me? Please help me! These men are hurting me. Please help! Ow! Ow! Stop! Please help me! Somebody help! Please! Somebody help me! Help! I'm being attacked! Somebody help! Please don't turn off my cameras! Help me! Help! Ah! I think it's gonna poke me, probably, and stick me. Help me! Let me get a disability coordinator, please. Do you have one with your company, Boyce? Disability coordinator. Roll over, mister. Please help me. Please stop taking my assistive devices. Help. Somebody help. Someone help, please. Help me. You can hear me. You're not helping. Why? These men are attacking me. Do you have a supervisor? Boyce, please get a supervisor here. Boyce, do you hear me? I can hear you, and I'm the supervisor.
Please get me a supervisor.
Listen, sir, you're not helping your cause.
Help.
We need for you to roll over to your side.
Please help me.
One way or another, you're gonna go to jail today.
Please. I'm being attacked. Somebody help, please.
Okay.
You have a disability coordinator. Anybody?
All right.
Leslie.
All right, sir. You're gonna go into the wheelchair. You can't walk on your own power.
Please don't hurt me anymore. Please don't hurt me anymore.
Sit up, sir.
Please don't hurt me anymore. Please stop.
Sir.
Please stop. Okay. Please stop hurting me. Stop. Ow! 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 Ah! Why? Why are you hurting me? Why? Why are you doing this? Ow! Ow! Stop! I've got knee injuries. Stop! Please don't steal my property. Somebody help. The disability coordinator. There's my attitude. Help. Help. Somebody help me. Help me. If you can see it, please record it. Help. I'm being attacked by people I don't know. Help. I'm being kidnapped. Help. Somebody help. Help me. Help. I'm being kidnapped. Help. Somebody help. Help. Strangers have attacked me. Now they're kidnapping me. Help. Help. Somebody help.
Okay.
Please help. Anybody.
Cap.
Help.
He's got to lock these doors. He's got to lock these doors.
Help me.
This shit's still recorded.
Help. Hello. Help. I'm being kidnapped. Help me.
He's still recording. I can't turn that thing
I've
on.
been attacked. Help me. Help me. People are kidnapping me. Help.
You got it.
Help. Help me.
Help! Somebody help! Help! I'm being kidnapped! Help! Somebody help me!
Joe, go ahead.
Help!
Okay, my bad.
You good? Somebody help! Hello, anybody? Help! I'm being kidnapped. Where are we going? Where are we going? Where are you taking me? Where are you taking me? Hello?
Joe, go ahead.
Where are you taking me? Hello? Kevin, where are you taking me? Help! Anybody help me? Somebody help me. Please help. Door. Please help. Yeah, disability coordinator. Disability coordinator. Watch his head. Is there a disability coordinator? That's my head. That's my head. Ow. Hi, Miss Robeson. Appreciate you.
Figure this thing out.
Still on. Bang. All right. This is First Amendment Auditor Idiot number 2. Was here last week with the live stream. Was told to get out the building last week. Came back this week's in the public health live streaming. Was told to leave by public health director over there and Captain Daugherty. Kept questioning why he needs to leave. Didn't want to leave. Kept live streaming. Second degree trespass and RDO. Refused to listen to my direct orders to actually turn around, pulled away from me, put up a struggle for a guy who can't see. He's pretty swift on his feet. He's not going to give me his name. I know his name, but I want him to confirm it because we do have his real name and all his information, but he's going to probably want to go under a John Doe. So I'm going to ask him if he's going to give me his name. I doubt he is, even though we have his information already. We did our research, but I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. And whatever you want to do from there, we can put on his real name or John Doe. It doesn't matter to me.
Use the real name.
I'm reconnecting to the interpreter who's disconnected.
And Mr. Nelson, this is James.R.Capps. Can you hear me, or are we still connected?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, the visual interpreter is getting reconnected right now too.
And Your Honor, Mr. Nelson, I do have one more video. This was not part of the district court trial. It's a body cam footage from Officer Boyce's body camera on January 31st, 2020. I believe the two had contact at the courthouse. It was given to our office from the county attorney a couple weeks ago. So I've been made aware of it. I'm in possession of it. Pursuant to the court's order this morning, I'm going to go ahead and turn this one over to Mr. Nelson as well.
Okay, for the record. Once you're reconnected, we will proceed.
All right, the visual interpreter is back. We're ready to go.
And I think this video is about 5 minutes.
May proceed.
I could do that.
So you need to come into the clerk's office?
Yeah, I'm trying to do some record requests.
All right.
And people here are giving me orders or trying to.
Can everybody hear that? At this point, it's just background noise in the courthouse.
I can hear my voice and some background noise.
All right, again, this is January 31st, 2020. Video's about 6.5 minutes.
Like, so many clear places that they're not identifying. So can you tell me like who's here trying to give me orders?
Well, you can come in,
Okay.
but you have to turn your devices off until you get into the clerk's office to use it for what you need to pay.
Okay, can we first establish like who's here trying to give orders without identifying? Because
I already told them so.
I got you, but these other people are doing the same
I
thing.
don't know all the names.
Will you help me get it? Because they're not really identifying their names. I need to file a complaint. I need to follow some legal action. I need to know if they're going to be different than mine.
They're all here.
Okay. Will you guys identify yourselves, please? Is anybody here law enforcement? Other than the deputy? You're not going to identify yourself as law enforcement? Or?
So do you want to come in?
Yeah, I'm still trying to, but I don't feel safe right now because of the juniors and the people here, and now they're mocking and it isn't threatening order.
All right, well,
So,
if you want to come in, you're more than welcome to come in.
okay. Can I,
But you have to turn.
will you help me figure out who's here?
I'm here to address you. I can't order nobody give their names to you. I'm here to address you. But you're welcome to come in, but you have to turn your devices off.
All right.
until-
Why is that?
Because you already read the order.
Okay. Well, I'm asking for a reasonable accommodation or modification to the ADA. Patricia Dixon is supposed to address this quickly. Come on, go ahead. Yeah, fix it.
Same with the reasonable accommodation.
Yeah, I guess I think this is enough understood. It's not a problem, right? It's a reasonable accommodation. Yeah.
Is that fine?
No.
You're not giving
I don't get it. Because I'm going to records request.
No committee.
They're calling state statute, records request, without providing any information. But they're part of the illegal here. They're trying to demand ID to do a records request. When the state statute says you can do it anonymous. That makes sense. So they're violating state law. So maybe you want to enforce that. Somebody said a legal name that they thought with me, and they're trying to do that. They're on the camera or something. But they're being smart. They have that, identifying anything.
So you're having
An order?
Yes.
Okay.
But if you want to come in after 20
What order are you?
that judgment already.
Oh, permit. Okay. I don't have a permit assigned to the name provided. Somebody filled out erroneous information. It's invalid. They forward the name on it. Makes sense?
Go ahead.
Do we need to fill it in?
He is live streaming his interaction right now, speaking with the bailiff. Yeah, I don't know if she knows that or not, but he is currently live streaming.
He's live streaming right now still. He has not turned his phone off per this court order that they have.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else? And your jean jacket?
So safe, I'm pretty. What, you want to hang out with me now? You want to hang out with me?
You're the previous one. I just want to make sure that
There you go.
Track your movement. You know?
It's okay, Mike. No one's tracking your movements. Hang outside. Wait on him? I have no fucking paperwork. I don't know what Sergeant Gilchrist went. I don't know what Sergeant. Yeah, that chain. She went around here. I think she's on the phone. But just if he doesn't want to stop live streaming, he has to go. That's it. That's all you have to tell him is he has to go. He doesn't go. He's going for second degree trespassing. I'm done for the day.
The permit says he cannot record. He's recording. He's got to go.
So I just need anybody here from the county to tell him he needs to go because he's still live streaming. He says, hell no. He's going in cuffs. End of story.
Yeah, we just had somebody call the clerk's office complaining about seeing the live stream.
Oh, yeah.
So y'all know.
Yeah, see, it's gonna be going down. So he has to go. I have no idea what she's talking about. That's what's so hard at just tell him he has to go. He doesn't want to go. Second degree trespass. I've been through this with the magistrates enough time. He'll understand that. Damn it! Now he's gonna leave. No, don't let him leave. Don't leave. Don't you leave. No. You ain't gonna stir this shit up and leave, you bastard. You're gonna come back. You're gonna fucking go to jail today. That's all I need is one person to be like, okay, well, you gotta go. No, fuck that. Oh. And I will put his ass in the fucking floor today.
Oh, that's very telling. That I think that right there is the exculpatory evidence that we knew existed, but I'm glad we confirmed that this was premeditated action by Officer Boyce. You just heard it yourself. He wanted to throw me on the ground. He wanted to do me violence. You can hear him playing with his handcuffs, trying to intimidate me. Again, this is only a 5 or 6 minute video of maybe a 45-minute encounter. He did omit the section where he was walking around behind me and then eventually read off a notepad what he believed to be my home address and full name as another form of intimidation. So this was several days, like 4 or 5 days before the attack on me on the January 4th in the health department. That same day when I left the courthouse, somebody that sounded like one of the security officers, I can't confirm it was Boyce or not, and we have audio of this, pulled up in front of the courthouse when I was walking along the sidewalk and threatened to kill me, threatened to shoot me. I made that police report the next day on the 1st of February. And then 3 days later is when he actually enacted his plan to attack me in the health department.
Anything else from the state on the video?
Not on the videos, Your Honor. Again, those are all of the videos that I have in my possession. I've either gotten from Officer Boyce or the county attorney's office related to this case. State's ready to proceed with its first witness relevant to the charge from February 4th.
You may proceed. Let's take a 10-minute break.
Mr. Nelson, this is James.R.Capps with the DA's office. The judge is back on the bench. Are you still on?
And call back.
All right.
Christy will be happy to help you.
Everybody back.
Yeah, I'm back. The visual interpreter is changing shifts, so I'm gonna get another one on so we can continue.
Okay, let us know when you're ready.
Hello?
You may be quick.
We're ready.
You may proceed.
Your Honor, may it please the court. Mr. Nelson's made a motion to suppress second-degree trespass. Date of offense, February 4th, 2020. He's alleged to have trespassed at the Guilford County Health Department, located in High Point, North Carolina, next to the Guilford County Courthouse, after having been notified not to enter or remain by a person in charge of the premises, that being Captain Doherty, employed with Guilford County Security. Also moving to suppress the charge of resist a public officer. It's alleged that he resisted, delayed, and obstructed Officer Boyce with North State Security employed by Guilford County Courthouse Security on February 4th by failing to leave when he was instructed to leave the premises, also becoming combative and pulling away from the officer and not submitting hands to the officer once he requested he leave the premises and was advised that he was placed under arrest. State's first witness on the motion to suppress is going to be Ms. Leslie Barbee.
You may have to testify from your computer just because I don't know how we're gonna do the audio.
And for the record, and just to make sure that Mr. Nelson is aware, Ms. Barbee is the only witness in the courtroom right now. Captain Daugherty and Officer Boyce have been escorted back to the jury room. Is there any objection from the court if she testifies over at the defense table? That way we can hook up a computer that's got her on WebEx.
Objection.
No objections for me.
Well,
okay, we'll get that set up.
Right.
Yeah.
Your Honor, I believe that we are connected.
You ready to proceed? May proceed.
And Your Honor, if we could have Ms. Barbee sworn in.
I do.
May proceed.
Barbee, just for purposes of the record, can you introduce yourself to the court and spell your name?
Yes, my name is Leslie Barbee. That's LESLIEBARBEE.
Turn this one off.
And where are you employed, Ms. Barbee?
At the Guilford County Health Department in High Point.
How long have you been employed there?
Almost 14 years.
Were you employed at the Guilford County Health Department on February 4th, 2020?
Yes.
And what capacity were you employed in?
I have dual roles at the health department. Actually, one of my roles is building administrator. Does anybody mind if I pull this off?
May.
That would help. I have dual roles at the health department, but in that capacity, I was the building administrator.
And could you just describe what the building administrator is, what your responsibilities and duties entail in that role?
Anything pertaining to the building, facility requests, problems with clients, you know, just basically anytime the staff needs assistance with anything in the building.
And quickly, if you could just describe what kinds of individuals or what kinds of patients are seen at the health department.
We have a variety of patients that are seen. We have a teen clinic for teens that come in with STDs and pregnancies. We have family planning for STDs and also for adults that are pregnant. We have WIC services for families to receive assistance through WIC. We have a dental department. That's pretty much most of our clientele.
And sorry, aren't you? Mr. Nelson, we're just trying to get some things straightened out with the audio over here.
Okay.
During your employment at the health department and pursuant to your role as the building administrator, have you received any kind of training relating to patient confidentiality or anything similar to that? What, if any, training have you received?
It's a requirement that we, every year we have to do a training session with the video training that we have to watch. It's followed up with questions that we have to answer, and we have to pass those that test at the end in order to be employed.
So this was yearly? And in your capacity What, if any, measures are you aware of that are in place, policies or procedures in place at the health department to protect patient confidentiality?
Honest with you, I am not in the clinical area.
I can't hear the witness.
Administration, and know that all files, when they leave,
Volume is very low.
they are inside black envelopes.
Cannot hear the witness.
If you would
You
speak,
can hear her, but it's not very low and not intelligible.
I think we're getting the audio from the prosecutor's mic and not from the defense's, the witness's mic.
Kind of the issue was that we were getting a lot of feedback. And so we're going to try and use the microphone, see if that will project our voice enough to hopefully not cause any feedback. It would just go through one computer, because that was the issue that we were having.
we'll try that.
And Ms. Barbee,
You were answering a question about policies and procedures in place at the health department for patient confidentiality.
And I can only speak to the administration because we put patient files in black envelopes as we transport them around the building or to other buildings. I can't speak to what they do in the clinical area because I'm not in the clinical area, but we have to close down our computers if we walk away from our desk. If we are working on something and someone enters our office, we have to turn the papers over so that no patient information is laid out where anyone could see it. We can't leave any kind of patient information on copiers or printers. Everything has to be put away.
Why do you have to do that?
Because it is a HIPAA violation to leave that kind of information out where anyone could see it or pick up anybody's personal health information.
And based on the knowledge and experience that you've gained from your employment there, are juveniles patients at the health department?
Yes.
Are there victims of sexual assaults or sexual crimes that are patients at the health department?
I would say yes, but again, I don't work in the clinic, so I don't know what the clients that come in, what their situation is.
And based on your training and experience, based on your knowledge as an employee, are people allowed to photograph or video while they're inside the health department?
Absolutely not.
And can you just explain to the court why that is?
For that very reason, we have children, we have teens, we have people that are coming in with STDs, and while their paperwork may not be able to be seen, if someone is recording, obviously their face would be seen, and someone out in the community may see them or recognize them, and they may not, want everyone to know that they're being seen at the health department. It's a privacy issue.
Based on your knowledge and experience as an employee at the health department and your knowledge and experience pertaining to that restriction or those policies, do you know if that restriction is applied to everybody that comes in the health department?
Yes, it is. It is also posted on the entry door that there are no recording devices allowed, as well as cell phones.
Based on your knowledge and experience, is that a policy or is that a restriction that is selectively applied to certain individuals?
No, that is a policy. We have a written policy.
And do you recognize the defendant, Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
Do you see him virtually here in court today?
I do.
Where do you see him at?
Here.
And you're pointing somewhere. Where are you?
I'm sorry, on the laptop.
Okay. And did you come into contact with Mr. Nelson on February 4th, 2020?
Yes, I did.
And just describe what you remember about that contact, please.
This was my third interaction with Mr. Nelson. And so I already knew he was in the building. Staff had already alerted me that he was in the building. And we already knew that he was live streaming while he was in the building. So at some point, I mean, I let security interact with him and handle it. And at some point, I guess he asked for me, and I came out and just reiterated to him that he was not allowed to be recording in there and that he had to leave the building. He had no business being in the building. He was not a patient of ours. He was not there for any services. And so he had to leave the building and stop recording. And he refused to do so. And that is when security got involved and asked him to leave again. And he kept refusing to do, well, he never refused, but he just kept repeating himself. And finally, Boyce arrested him.
And do you remember how many times you had actually made contact or interacted with Mr. Nelson before February 4th, 2020?
I had two interactions with him before this.
And based on your recollection of those interactions, had you explained to him the policies about recording in the health department?
Yes.
Either of those times that you interacted with him or had contact with him, those two previous times, had you been aware or did you have any knowledge that he had brought recording equipment into the health department or attempted to record?
The first time that he came in, he was only there for a short period. He came in, asked a few questions about services, and left. It was not an issue. It was a non-issue. But the second time he came in, we were aware that he was live streaming, recording, and I did ask him to leave as well as security. There was, a whole lot of discussion back and forth between him and security and myself, but he did finally leave the building.
And are you aware that Mr. Nelson is visually impaired?
Yes.
Okay. And based on your recollection, based on your knowledge of your previous contacts with him, do you recall explaining the policy to him?
Yes. I did explain to him that we have clients in that building that would not want to be recorded or not want to be on his live stream for other people to see that they're patients of the health department.
On that second one that you described prior to February 4th, how are you aware that he was live streaming or recording that time?
He had a YouTube channel, and it was easily, staff would open it up and they could see him recording.
Was there?
Yes.
And do you recall watching that while he was there?
Yes.
And what if any kind of equipment did he have with him when you made contact with him?
I mean, all I could see was he had a stick with what looked like an iPhone on it of some sort. That's all I could see, but I don't think that was the actual recording device. But I mean, I think it's. I can't be sure. I don't know.
He left that time. You testified that was the second time you saw him before he came back February 4th. Mm-hmm. And you testified a couple of minutes ago that he was live streaming during that visit. How are you aware of that?
Same thing. Staff had already alerted me that he was in the building, and several of them had already pulled it up on YouTube, and we were watching live.
And is that a violation of the recording policy?
Yes, sir.
Would any person who is recording or live streaming video content in the health department be asked to leave?
Yes.
And you also said that staff alerted you that he was in the building.
Yes.
What'd you do after that?
I waited for security to handle the situation, and I tried not to be involved unless I was needed. But both times I was asked to come out and talk to Mr. Nelson, which I came out and explained again the situation, that he could not be recording in the building, that there was, we had clients and there was privacy issues, and I asked him to leave.
You said he kept repeating himself?
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
Well, every time you would ask him a question, he would repeat the question and come back at you again. I mean, every time you said, you cannot record in here, he would repeat what you're saying and say, well, I can, based on, whatever. I mean, he just kept on saying that he could when I kept saying, no, you cannot, and that he had to leave.
Did you ever ask him to leave?
Several times.
And did he ever voluntarily leave on his own?
The second time, the second visit, he did actually leave on his own after a while of discussion back and forth with myself and security. He finally did leave.
What about the visit on February 4th?
No.
And did there come a point where you contacted additional security over to the health department on February 4th?
I did not contact security at all.
Objection, leading the witness.
The officer that was in the building, he is the one.
I think Mr. Nelson said something, but I didn't catch what he said.
I said objection, leading the witness.
That was a yes or no question, Your Honor.
I did not actually call security on any at any point at any time. The security officer that was already talking to Mr. Nelson is the one that called for additional backup.
Who was that person?
I believe that was his name's Calvin. And I'm sorry, I don't remember his last name. He's no longer a security officer of ours. He has retired.
And the area that you were interacting with Mr. Nelson in the health department, where was that at?
In the front lobby, where all the patients come in to check in.
And do you recall if this was during business hours?
Yes, it was.
Were there patients being seen at that time?
Yes, there were.
Did any of the patients or did anybody that was visiting the health department try to approach you about the situation?
No, no one did. I know there were a few clients that left the building and made comments about it, or were making comments about it.
Objection, leading the witness.
Hallway.
And what if comments did you overhear?
The only thing that I heard
Objection,
was
leading the witness.
the only comments that I heard were
Anybody
that-
hear me? Hello?
that guy out in the lobby recording what's going on out there.
Hello, is anybody right there? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm objecting to a lot of the questions are in leading fashion. This is direct examination as far as I understand. So he needs to limit his questions into a non-leading manner.
I overruled the objection.
Okay.
And when the patients would approach you or the comments that you were just describing, do you recall what the attitude or demeanor of these folks were?
I don't. I'm going to be honest. It's been a while, and I don't remember.
At some point while you were in contact with Mr. Nelson, did Captain Doherty arrive?
Yes.
When did he arrive? Do you remember?
While I was standing there talking to Mr. Nelson about shutting off his recording devices, Captain Doherty came in with Boyce.
Do you recall about how long that you had been there interacting with Mr. Nelson at that point?
Just a minute or two. I mean, I literally just walked out there and explained to him that he had to cut off the recording device, that he'd been told several times that he could not record in there, and he'd been asked to leave. And about that time, Captain Doherty and Boyce came in.
What happened when they got there?
When they came in, and I finished talking to them both, Captain Doherty and Boyce also asked him to stop recording and to leave the building. They repeatedly asked him to leave the building and stop recording, and he did not. And Boyce told him that if he did not stop or did not leave, that he would be arrested. And at that point, Boyce put handcuffs on him, and he flopped to the floor and started screaming.
Okay. When you characterize that he flopped to the floor, just sort of flesh that out a little bit. Describe what you mean by that.
Well, I mean, nobody threw him to the floor. He just kind of dropped to the floor himself. And then Boyce had to get him rolled over just to get the handcuffs on him at that point.
Were there people in the lobby?
Yes, there were clients in the lobby. We had a construction crew there doing some work. They were in the lobby. There were several people in the lobby.
And did you watch the interaction between Officer Boyce and Mr. Nelson?
I did.
And at any point, did you believe that Mr. Nelson had sustained any medical injuries or was in need of any medical help?
No, I did not.
Objection, speculation. This witness isn't a expert witness in anything medical. This is her speculation.
I'll note that overruled.
At any point, did anyone in the lobby intervene in what was going on?
No.
And what happened after Mr. Nelson went to the ground?
They were trying to get him rolled over to get him up off of the floor and take him to, I guess, to the courthouse. And they couldn't get him to get up. He wouldn't get up on his own. So they requested wheelchairs. And at that point, I did leave the lobby because I wanted to notify our health director what was going on, so she would be aware before coming back to the lobby. And at that point, they had got him into a wheelchair, and he was screaming that he was being kidnapped as they were pushing him out the front door. It caused a big scene, so all the clients were there, and I wanted the health director to be aware in case she got any phone calls.
And you testified earlier that based on your knowledge and experience there at the health department, are you aware if Mr. Nelson is a patient?
He is not a patient.
Are you aware that he was there for any?
I had made sure that he did not have an appointment before he showed up that day, we had been checking on him quite frequently, and he had never made an appointment with our office to be seen for anything.
Why do you say that you've been checking on him frequently?
He had made several visits to our DSS office as well, and been recording, and so there had been some interaction with him before. So we were trying to make sure that if he came back in, that we were prepared for that situation.
Is that the DSS office in Guilford County?
Yes, on East Russell.
And while you were interacting or having contact with Mr. Nelson, did you ask him to leave or stop recording?
Yes, both times.
One time or more than once?
Multiple times.
And when officers Daugherty and Boyce got on the scene, do you recall if he was advised again to stop recording or leave?
He was asked multiple times to stop recording and asked to leave the building.
At any point during that contact before he was placed under arrest, were you aware if he had in fact stopped recording?
I was not aware if he had stopped, no.
Okay. Did he ever say anything to you to the effect that he was going to stop recording?
No.
At any point, did you believe he was going to comply with your request?
No.
And were you contacted about this incident from anybody after the fact?
Yeah. Me, well,
Objection, relevance.
Well, what he was live streaming on,
Objection, relevance.
I just want to make sure I'm clear. Are you talking about?
Let me rephrase that
Okay.
question.
Can you guys hear me?
Did you receive any communication or?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. Can you make sure there's a pause between speakers? So when you ask a question, give a pause. There's latency with the nature of we're doing court. Also, I need to get audio or visual translation from my interpreter. So just like you would for any other kind of interpretation, one person speaks, you wait a few seconds, allow there to be room for objection or translation, and then we can proceed in an orderly fashion.
And Ms. Barbee, did you ever receive any contact or communication about Mr. Nelson's treatment at the health department?
Yes. Again, he was live streaming on a YouTube channel, and my
Objection,
information
relevance.
at the health department was posted.
I can't hear if the judge is answering. I can't hear. This is not relevant to what happened leading up to the arrest.
My information at the health department was posted on his web stream, whatever you call it, but I received numerous phone calls from his followers on YouTube the next day, actually the next week.
The witness is speculating that she received messages from so-called followers of mine. There's no way for her to have facts that the people that she had contact with were in fact followers of mine.
They stated they saw a video.
I'll sustain that this time.
Did you receive any contacts about this incident?
Yes.
Where were you contacted?
At my, at work, my number, to the health department was posted, so I received hundreds of calls about this video. I was cussed out, I was threatened, just numerous phone calls. We had to finally put
Objection, relevance.
on there.
This isn't relevant to the case.
Overruled.
To receive all the calls and weed through the ones that were actual work related.
Did you have any contact with Mr. Nelson after February 4th?
No,
And have you given what you believe to be truthful and accurate testimony about your interaction with him that day and the days before that?
yes,
Has anything happened that's caused you to doubt your opinion or doubt your recollection or memory of what happened?
no.
Those are my questions for this witness, Your Honor.
Answers from cross-examine.
Yep, just give me a second. I can check my notes real quick.
Hearing him.
I didn't hear what you said.
She's in the court report said she's having a hard time hearing you. If you could speak up a little bit, I'll try to turn the speaker back on.
Okay.
You can try it now.
Yeah, 1 second. Okay, Miss Barbee, have you reviewed anything in preparation for your testimony today?
No, I mean, I watched the videos that were shown this morning, and I have our policy on the video recording. That's it.
Okay. Can I get a copy of that policy pursuant to rule? I think it's 6. Hold on. It's rule 612. Can I get that provided?
Yes.
Will the court be able to provide whatever notes Ms. Barbee used to refresh her memory pursuant to Rule 612? You can email it to me in an OCR format.
Your Honor, I don't believe she used any notes to refresh her memory. I think her answer was that she reviewed the policy before testifying.
I will try to get you the policy. I don't know. I assume we have a capability of emailing that. I don't know.
Yeah. Rule 612 doesn't specify. It has to be noted. It says any object that the witness uses to refresh their recollection prior to testifying.
My understanding of what you looked at was the policy, and we'll get that to you.
Thank you, Judge. Let me check my audio notes from direct. I'm going to mute real quick. Okay, Ms. Barbee, can you still hear me?
Yes.
You testified just a minute ago in direct examination that you were trained in HIPAA. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Does HIPAA apply to the medical professionals or does it apply to the public?
Medical professionals.
Okay, so HIPAA doesn't apply to people that happen to be in the public lobby. Is that correct?
Well, I'm sorry, but the medical professionals are responsible for the medical information that we have in the building. And if the public is out there, we have to keep that private and from public view.
Right. Yeah, you testified that you have steps to ensure the privacy of patients. You said you use folders that are black or that prevent people from seeing private medical information. You said you turn over private medical information. So those are the steps that you testified that you do. And if for some reason one of your staff doesn't do that and a member of the public sees it, that would be a violation of HIPAA on your staff, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so that wouldn't be the public violating HIPAA. That would be your staff violating HIPAA, correct?
Correct, but you were recording. And
You answered the question. That's okay. Just answer the question, please.
We were stopping you from.
No, that's not the question, ma'am. You already answered the question. We're going to the next question.
Ms. Barbee to complete her answer.
I'll do that. Ms. Barbee, you can complete your answer.
We were preventing him from video recording our clients, and that is also a violation of their personal information. So we were within our right to do that.
That's not the question asked, but we'll move on. What part of HIPAA specifically says that a person's image is private medical information?
Object to the relevance.
This is completely relevant, Judge. It's the issue at heart here. She's claiming that somebody's image is protected under HIPAA, and so that's actually nowhere in the federal law that is HIPAA.
I'll allow an answer this again.
I can't answer the question.
The question is, Ms. Barbee, what part of HIPAA, if you know of any, says that somebody's personal image is private medical information?
I said I can't answer that question.
Are you aware of anything in HIPAA that makes somebody's
answered questions at this point?
I'll sustain that. I already answered that question. You may proceed.
I want the record to show that she refused to answer the question, that she was unresponsive.
I think the answer was she didn't know anything about that. You can.
The judge, she said she couldn't. She said she couldn't answer that question. That's unresponsive.
I'll note that. You may proceed. Move on.
Thank you. You testified under direct that you had 3 encounters with me. Is that correct? Right. What are the first? What's the first date that you claim to have encountered me?
It's been 2 years ago. I could not tell you those dates at this point. I would have to do a little research to find out.
Okay. If we played a video of that encounter, would that refresh your memory?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Simmons, I believe my auxiliary aide has the video of my first encounter in the public health department. That was January 13th, 2020. Please, as a court, we can play that video to refresh the witness's memory.
You may.
Yes. What date was that again, please?
January 13th, 2020 at the health department.
Right, video.
Before we do this, I have a few questions about that encounter. So while he's prepping that, Ms. Barbee, you said that you told me to leave on the previous encounter. Is that correct?
To the best of my memory, yes.
Okay. You also swore to the just a minute ago in direct that you told me to not use any recording devices on the previous encounter. Is that also correct?
To the best of my memory.
Okay.
I have all the other videos downloaded. It won't be a delay, but this particular one wasn't downloaded, so it's like it'll take about 3 minutes.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to continue with questioning, and we can come back when the video is ready, if that's okay, Judge.
You may proceed.
Thank you. Ms. Barbee, you said that the lobby that I was in on February 4th, let's go back to the original reason we're here, February 4th, that lobby, is that a public lobby?
Yes,
And you swore that it was open to the public and it was business hours when I was there on February 4th?
it is open to the public, but only to clients that have a reason to be there.
Okay. You also swore in district court, and I think you just swore today, that I didn't ask for any services while I was there on February 4th. Is that your testimony?
I'm sorry, that you did what?
You swore in district court trial and today that I wasn't there for any services. That's what you swore. Is that your testimony today?
Yes, you did not have any services there. You were not a patient of ours. You did not have an appointment. You were not there to be seen for any reason.
You said it's open to the public. Can the public come in to make an appointment?
Yeah, yes, they can.
Okay. Can the public come in to ask questions about goods and services?
They can.
Okay, and that's legitimate official business at the health department?
It is.
And you're saying that I did not do that on February 4th?
You may have done that, but you did not do that and then leave the building.
Okay.
You walked up to the window and asked your questions and then sat down.
Did you, you said you watched video of this encounter live, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And in district court, you said you watched it live from when I entered the building, and you said I went to the bathroom, and then to the counter, and then sat down. Is that also your testimony today?
Correct.
Okay. Would it surprise you?
Also filled a water bottle.
Right. Okay. I did fill a water bottle that day. Thank you. Yeah. Would it surprise you to know that that actually was never live streamed?
Well, then how did I see it? I saw you do it.
Okay. But
How would I have known
your
that
testimony, Ms.
were
Barbee, your
filling a water
testimony,
bottle?
your testimony in district court and today was that you watched it live. And
I did.
I'm asking you, okay, that's fine. We can play those videos too. Mr. Simmons, are we about ready?
Well, I'm playing the file, but it doesn't seem to be anything in the file. This is one file. This is the one file I did not verify before the hearing. All the other ones have been verified. This was unless it's on down the line, on down the. Oh, okay. Go back.
Yeah, I'm told that at the beginning there's like a lens cap problem, so there might not be video, but there's probably audio.
Oh, okay. 12 minutes long. Okay. Playing.
Now, Miss Barbee, I want you to stop the video anytime you hear yourself direct me to not record, and anytime you hear yourself tell me to leave.
And Your Honor, if I could just make an inquiry about what date this is?
Yeah, this is January 13th, January 1/3, 2020. This will be the first visit to the health department.
I can skip ahead 30 seconds at a time.
Go ahead. Okay. If this is just dead video or audio, I think it picks up at 4:58 mark.
4:58?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, you don't have audio?
Audio.
Do you have audio?
No.
Yeah, that might work.
Mr. Capps, if you can help him, I think you guys had the same problem getting your audio going. I don't know what you guys did.
All right.
Can you hear that?
Okay. Oh, all right.
I bet that was
You need
it.
to bring your cell phone to communicate or navigate. We can accommodate you.
Can you hear that
with
now?
You just can't record while you're in here.
What about my notes? How are you going to accommodate me for my
Can you
notes?
hear it now?
Yes.
Okay, I'll start it over.
When you get back there with someone, you can record with them as long as.
Sorry about that.
Okay, I think my thing's working. Alrighty.
Here's where we're at. Again.
You hear that, right?
You have cell phones inside the building.
Who are you?
Jim Bowen again.
Okay.
Just look you up there.
Oh, all right.
Public Health provides confidential medical and other services, and the medical privacy interest of the customers trumps your need for your defense. If you do have getting services offered, if you have business here, we can accommodate you.
Okay.
But you must turn off your video device.
So how are you going to accommodate?
If you need to bring your cell phone to communicate or navigate, we can accommodate you with that. You just can't record while you're in here.
What about my notes? How are you going to accommodate me for my note taking?
Where you're talking with, like same as up there, I told you before, when you get back there with someone, you can record with them as long as they're fine with it.
Okay. What about my notes for navigating from point A to point B?
We will get you where you need to go.
Okay. I
We can offer you a wheelchair so that you can say
No, I don't.
into the building.
I don't need a wheelchair.
Okay. And
is there an ADA coordinator here for the building?
Is there an ADA coordinator?
Disability coordinator?
No.
Oh, hi.
But hi, do you have an appointment or do you need to make an appointment?
I'm just trying to figure out what services are here and how people go about getting access to those services.
Well, I mean, we have an appointment line. You can call and schedule an appointment, or any one of these windows would be glad to help you with that.
Okay. All right. Cool. What's your name?
My name is Leslie.
Leslie. All right. And you work here?
Mm-hmm.
What's your position here?
I'm in Vital Records.
Vital Records, cool. All right. So yeah, where do I go to talk to one of these people?
Right here, this window right here should be glad to help you with. Step right over here.
Okay. All right.
Right here.
Okay. Cool.
If you could, he's interested in making an appointment.
Thanks, Leslie. Hi.
Hey, what kind of appointment we can help you with,
Well,
sir?
what all do you guys provide?
STD testing, immunizations, and birth control for women, maternity care.
Okay. And are those at, is there a cost for those? You have to have insurance or like prepay or anything like that?
Well, for STD testing is free, and so is the treatment.
Okay.
Okay, depending on what services do you need.
Okay. So that's, you said STD care, testing, and then,
STD testing, treatment,
Mhm.
if you test positive for something.
okay,
Immunizations for children.
Okay.
Immunizations.
travel immunizations? So that doesn't have to necessarily be for children?
No.
Okay.
Your travel immunizations is for adults and children.
Okay.
Family planning and maternity care.
Is there a cost for the immunizations?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. What about for the family planning? Would that include like contraceptives and things like that?
That's correct.
Is there a cost for that?
Yes.
Okay.
If they don't have insurance, it would be based on their income.
Oh, okay. Okay. And that's it for walk-in or setting up appointments for the health department here?
That's correct.
Okay. What's the number to call to set up an appointment?
Okay. Would you like me to give a card, or do you need me to give it out to you?
I think you just tell it to me.
It's 336-641-3245.
Mhm.
And if you want High Point, it's option 2. If you want Greensboro, it's option 3.
Oh, okay. So you can do either High Point or Greensboro.
That's correct.
Okay. You said there was maternity? Or?
Maternity care.
Okay. And that's for like doing checkups for expecting moms or?
Exactly.
All right. Is there a cost associated with that as well?
Yes, there is. It's based on income as well.
Okay. All right.
I'll object at this point.
Services, right?
I think we've gone past the
And what's
relevance
your name?
of the incident from February 4th. I think direct testimony established there was no issues for any of the previous 2 incidents that she had contact with him.
Actually, that's not the testimony, Judge. She testified she told me to leave. She testified she told me to stop recording. And that's not what's happened in this video. This video impeaches the witness.
In my first experience, I said I did not have an issue.
I'll allow it to play.
First name is Albia.
Albia?
Albia.
That's unique.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Where's that from?
Nicaragua.
Nicaragua. Ah, bien. All right. Muchas gracias.
Okay. De nada.
So if I can, if there's any other offices in this building?
It's just public health is also.
It's public health? Okay. And it's Bowen, right?
Yep.
All right.
Again, you can't record it here, so stop recording.
What was that?
Again, you can't record it here.
Oh, but that's, we talked about that. It's factually incorrect. Like, people can record in here.
You can't record in here.
It's posted.
They have
Okay.
records in here.
Medical records.
You
and,
can't record in here.
Okay. Who are you?
Who are you?
I got this from.
Oh, do you work here?
No, he doesn't.
Okay.
All right. So we're done. You got the.
Okay.
Got your appointment set up?
I got the information, the number to do an appointment.
Okay.
Are there walk-ins? Do you know?
We do take walk-ins, but you have to have an appointment.
Do what?
When you come in, you go to the window and they will tell you they have any open appointments.
I'm sorry, that was confusing. What's that again?
If you walk in, you can take, they will take, if they have any open slots, they will take.
Oh, okay. So you do just like that, but you ask if there's anything available for the day, so they can create an appointment. Like, okay,
If
gotcha.
they don't, they will schedule one for the future.
Okay, all right. that makes sense. So this whole thing is Department of Health. Is there other offices in the building, or another?
No.
Because the other
There's another half of this building that's Tampum, and it's not our building.
Wait, what is it?
It's in this building, but it's on the other side. It's not part of our.
Oh, it's not like a. It's not a county.
At least that area.
Okay, gotcha. All right. But the jail's over here somewhere, right?
Straight across the plaza there, up the stairs.
Okay, let me go find if the people in the jail know the law. Because it's probably not likely, and it's probably the same kind of level of ignorance of the law. But thank you, Leslie. Thanks, Little. Hi, Little. Have a good one. And unnamed guy that was trying to tell me stuff. Have a good day.
Okay. All right. So Miss Barbee, can you hear me?
I can.
Did you hear yourself tell me to leave at any point in that video?
Okay, so I believe that was our first interaction with you because I remember that, and I said there was no issue with that first interaction. There was a second one in between there somewhere because I remember that you and Calvin, the security guard, got into it.
Okay. Can we have the court reporter play back her testimony just when she said that she told me to leave in the previous encounter?
We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Hello? Can you hear me now? Hello?
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Yeah. Judge, can we have the court reporter play back the testimony where Miss Barbee swore just a few minutes ago that she told me to leave in the previous encounter?
We can't at this time because it's time for lunch. I have another WebEx here at 12:30. So we're going to have to take a recess until I'll do it to 2. I don't know how long this next one's going to take.
Okay, so we're recessing to what time, Judge?
So 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock. Okay.
Thank you.
Can we make sure that the witness stays sequestered? Because we have further witness testimony coming up.
I'll do that.
Thank you.
Stay tuned for more. Thanks for watching. Deo presso, libere.